You're listening to the SEO Mindset Podcast. Now, we are not your typical how to do SEO podcast. No, we are not. With the help of our guests, we cover those all-important topics around career development, personal growth, and mental health for those working in the SEO industry. You got to be working on your own internal algorithm. Like what we did there. So if you like the sound of our podcast and you think this is a bit of me, shall we crack on with this week's episode? Remote working means that you can work for any company based anywhere in the world. Pretty exciting, right? Especially if they pay you to go on work trips and you basically get to do a bit of traveling. Something that is often not spoken about is the transition into different workplace cultures, depending on where in the world a company is based, especially if it's different from what you're used to and your own background. This week, you're in for a treat. I'm not just joined by the one guest. I have the pleasure of two guests joining me to discuss this very topic. Roxana Stingu, Head of Search and SEO at Alamy, and Laura Iancu, founder of Searchpedia. Now, they're joining me to reflect on their own experiences. They're going to share their own stories, their lost in translation moments, and how they've navigated this in their own careers. If you're finding it hard to navigate this very situation, make sure to stick around as they also share practical tips and strategies that they have used that have helped them. Before I play you this wonderful conversation, just a quick ask for me. If you enjoy the SEO Mindset podcast and you're enjoying these episodes, remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to us right now. You know how those algorithms work. And if you're feeling extra generous, why not leave us a review? Without further ado, let's crack on. A very warm welcome to Laura and Roxana.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. I mean, it's not common that we have more than one guest, so I feel very privileged. I feel spoiled. I get two wonderful people that I get to speak with today.
Oh, I think the privilege is ours more than anything. I get to do this with Laura, who's not just a brilliant SEO, but is also a brilliant friend.
Aww. No pressure there, Laura. Brilliant friend. There you go.
I mean, I'm not going to write a love story here, but she does know. She knows.
I feel like I should just leave and leave it to you two.
No, we're very happy you're here to keep us moderated.
Yes. Yeah.
To keep you on track. I mean, this podcast and conversations, the great thing about it is we go off piste. We end up talking about lots of different wonderful things anyway, but we need someone to steer the ship. So I will do the best at steering that ship. So welcome. And today, I feel like I say this at the top of every episode because we always talk about very important topics, but I think this is such an important topic because it's one that we've not explored yet on the podcast. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. And I think it's just going to be a wonderful conversation because we're going to draw on both of your experiences and have a lovely little chit chat about it. So what are we talking about? So we are chatting workplace culture and how it can sometimes feel different from what you're used to because of your own background, how you've been brought up, all of that lovely stuff. So I'm going to start and I'm going to come to Roxana first. I'd love to hear about your experience with this. Yeah, so how you've experienced workplace culture and how it's been different to what you're used to.
I moved to the UK in 2014, but I'm Romanian. I come from a completely different country, and I've always worked with external companies. And I've worked with companies in the UK for most of the time, but also the US, Germany, Spain. So I got to interact with different cultures and different types of people. And I always notice that the country you're coming from will imprint on you, and it will give people certain traits, let's
Hmm.
say. So I don't want to talk about other people because it's not my place to do so. But for me, growing up in Romania, I learned that being direct is a way of showing honesty and being respectful, because you're not just kind of beating around the bush. But that wasn't necessarily a good thing once I started working as part of international teams where we didn't have other Romanians with the same values. So then my directness was sometimes seen as rude, maybe even
Mm.
aggressive. Instead, and to give you an example, I would say things like, oh, this doesn't work, because I wanted to jump into the problem and solve it. But that would be heard as you've done something wrong. So people would take my comments personally when I was really just focusing on the work. So I think that's just one example, but it's kind of, you grow one way and you expect the world to have the same values and mentality as you do, but then you go and work in somebody else's playground and you just have to learn how to use their toys instead.
That is such a great analogy because you don't know what you don't know. And it's not until you have different experiences or you find yourself in different situations, or for you, Roxana, moving to a different country, you don't learn about these things until you're actually in the midst of it. And you kind of, well, there's an element of being thrown in the deep end a little bit, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Laura, you can talk to this even more because you've been all over the globe.
Yes. It's our Romanianness, let's put it that way, the directness, I suppose. It translates differently depending on the sort of culture you work with. I found that the closer you are to Central Eastern Europe and, funnily enough, Asia so far for me, the more at home I felt to sort of just let my Romanianness shine, if you'd like. Whereas the more west you go, that was my experience so far, it can get a bit different. I wouldn't say if good different or bad different, but definitely different. So it does take more of your brain power and more of your empathy, and sort of exercising all these traits that come with you as a person to understand that sometimes whatever you're saying and your background, yes, it is a reflection of yourself, but it doesn't define you, and that's it. There's always room to improve, to adapt to other cultures, I guess. You just need to be open. That's pretty much what I've learned, and take it with a pinch of salt and don't take it too personally, which, Roxana, you can tell. Being from Romania, it's hard sometimes not to take it personally because it we're very much like that.
Everything, everything. I think
Yeah.
this is why we sometimes take things literally. Like, one of the things I discovered is that people will have polite ways of telling you to shut up. So, for instance, you present something and somebody, from your executive leadership team might go, interesting. That doesn't mean you should carry on talking. That's pretty much the polite way of saying, let's move on to the next thing. But because you take everything so personal, that interesting becomes, oh, you want to hear more. So I give more details, which is
Yes.
the opposite of what I should have done, right? So it's small things like that that you have to catch on and understand that the word interesting in Romanian, if somebody tells me something is interesting, it's an invitation to talk more. But as it happens in this new environment, that's an invitation to shut up.
I've got a great example. So today I was making someone a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and we've got biscuit flavored tea. I don't know if you're a fan of this biscuit flavored tea, Yorkshire tea. If you like to dunk your biscuits in your tea, biscuit tea is for you. But I was trying to sell it and being like, oh, it tastes really great. It smells really good. Have a smell. And the lady turned around and was like, interesting. And I knew she meant, I do not like that. Do not give me that tea.
Yeah.
But it kind of sounds like you always have to be switched on. So it sounds like it could be quite exhausting.
Yes. I'm going to just say very quickly, the more you practice it, the less exhausting it becomes. And you sort of make it a habit, I guess. I don't feel like that anymore. Perhaps couple of years back, I would have felt the sort of exhaustion of having to speak English all the time. And, your vocal cords are built differently when you come from a different culture. So even that would add to the whole exhaustion plus using your brain at full power. If you add some neurospiciness to it as well with all about oversharing, because so it can become quite a bit. But I feel like the more you do it and you believe in it and you accept the fact that this is your life now, and you like it, you sort of you chose the life at the end of the day. So if you like it, you stay in it. If you don't like it, you move on. And I feel like the more you accept it, the more less exhausting it becomes. Like, I don't feel like that anymore. I used to, but definitely not feel like that anymore.
Roxana, is it the same for you? Is that the same experience?
I guess it because you mentioned, Laura, you said when you learn a new language, you have to speak a different language than your own. And in the way that's exhausting. But after you've done it for so many years, it becomes just second nature. You think in English now, you forget how to think in Romanian in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same. It's just translating soft skills. So kind of trying to, this is the thing, you're not changing yourself. You're not quitting who you are. You're not giving up your values or anything. You're just kind of translating them to the audience, to the new audience you have in front of you. And that's not just across languages or countries. That could just be with peers in your own country as well, who just are built differently and maybe have a different background than yours. And if you notice that being so direct and prompt doesn't work with them, you need to translate that into doing it in a way that you're more efficient. So you're not giving up on yourself. You're just making yourself more efficient in your communication. And when you start seeing it this way and you start seeing it as an evolution for yourself, it's part of your growth. It is work because growth in general is work, but you get to a point where you're happier you've done it because now you're able to have those conversations or get those things across more easily, and it takes less effort. So I think if you do an average of effort, you actually come out doing less.
Definitely, definitely. And I think you've picked up on a really key point there. And sometimes we've all got our own different ways of how we communicate. And if we stick on being direct or being a bit fluffy or doing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Darcy Bustle shit sandwich. Does that ring any bells?
Is it the when you give feedback and you say a nice thing,
Yeah.
then you put in the middle the
Yeah.
thing you actually wanted to feedback on, and then you say another nice thing at the end?
Yeah. So I think, and that's just a great example of understanding who's in your team and their communication styles as well, because not only have we got our own backgrounds and different cultures going on, but we might have different personality traits. Some people might be more analytical, some people might be more direct. So if they see something and their analytical brain goes, or their logistical brain goes, that doesn't work, then that's going to jump in. Whereas if you are more sort of empathetic and you've got better, I don't know, like speaking or people skills, and you're not so direct and you know how to do the Darcy Bustle shit sandwich, for example, it's just learning who is in your team, isn't it? And a question here is, and I'm going to direct this to Roxana first. So it's important that we're talking about this because it's an important topic to raise awareness of, isn't it? Because what we're talking about is being aware of yourself, being aware who's in your team, and being aware of different communication styles. So it's important because at the end of the day, you've got to get on with people that you work with, right? And you've got to figure out how you work best together. Why else is it important? And yes, like I said, let's go to Roxana first.
I have a good example here. I've been doing a mentorship as part of the Freelance Coalition for Developing Countries, and I was doing this with an engineer on his soft skills. From a technical point of view, he's brilliant. He's really advanced. He's very young, but he's already really advanced. And as part of our discussions, this topic came up that you need to hone in your soft skills, because we were kind of looking at what do you do during an interview to get a job. And I said, well, the interview is not really about what you know technically. The first thing that an interviewer wants to know is, would I like to work with this person? And that's not about your technical knowledge, that comes second. So the first thing, they'll look at you and kind of assess you. Would you be fun to work with? Would you be, if we're in the same room, would I feel intimidated by you for any reason? Would I feel like I always have to talk for you because you don't talk enough? Like, how is this relationship going to go? So then in situations like that, you want to present yourself as the person everybody wants to work with. That doesn't mean you become the class joker. It doesn't mean you have to go beyond what you would normally do, but it does mean you should show yourself. Because a lot of people in interviews, as we're going with this example, will just sit there and wait for people to be asked questions, and that's it. That's all they do, instead of asking questions in return, having a conversation, showing how easy it is to have a conversation with them, smiling. Because I asked my mentee, what's the first thing you do in an interview? And I can't remember what he said, but I told him, no, you smile, because that's how you greet somebody, right? So this is where soft skills are very important. And then it can help you have a great interview, it can help you get a job. But then as you get a job, you don't want to promote the person who seems aggressive and pushy, and you want to promote somebody who's going to be nice to all the teams and make life easy for everybody. So soft skills can really keep you back professionally from many points of view if you don't refine them. And especially if you come from countries where there's not much accent on soft skills in as part of early education, you just end up at one point having to just learn it.
Mm. And I'm relating so much to what you're saying here, because at the end of the day, I'm not the only podcast producer. I am not the only person who knows SEO. I'm not the only person who writes content. Yeah. What makes me different is the relationships that I have with my clients. What makes me different is the connection and the rapport that you build with someone. And you only get that by, and I know authentically you gets thrown around a lot, but it's really important. And if part of you is your culture, and maybe that's a talking point, maybe that's something that's interesting. So it's about not being afraid to be you. And also, we are humans, we make mistakes. So if I offend someone or I upset someone, maybe it's because of how I've been brought up or the way that I communicate. If I end up upsetting anyone, it's about taking that accountability and being like, I am sorry, I didn't mean that, but I can see what I did there. Or also on the other side, understanding who you're working with and understanding their communication method. So if I know, Roxana, that you're more direct, I know that it's not something to be taken personally. So it's a whole dance, really, isn't it, of getting to know someone. Laura, how would you answer this question?
Well, I was thinking about a very similar situation, to be fair, with my former mentee. She came from, it was for a different for a different project. It was with Women in Tech SEO, and she came from a nursing background. So she was already a nurse. She came with a set of soft skills that I feel like they were very transferable into marketing. She just needed a bit of stirring, if that makes sense, in how to translate them into this new environment where most of her clients would have been online rather than, seeing patients every day. So honestly, I feel like we all have, depending on our background, because most of us working in marketing, we didn't start working in marketing. Let's call it by its name. I mean, I know you did. I was a developer. I had no idea what marketing is. Like, no idea, absolutely. But it's just, I feel like a lot of these skills, they're so transferable. You just need to sort of understand by practice, or if you've got the chance to get a bit of mentorship or career advice, or someone who you admire and you're like, do you know what, I like how you present yourself, I'd like to learn how to do this and this, could we just sit down for 5 minutes or just a Zoom coffee or whatever and go through it. So I feel like that's my 2 pence on it. Like, you already have a lot of these skills, you just need to reach out and understand how they can be transferable into your current environment. And with clients, for instance, because I've been freelancing for 6 months now, or 7 nearly, and I've never went there like trying to find clients. But what I've learned so far is that the more inquisitive you are, and I think that is part of a soft skill scenario, isn't it? Like asking questions and trying to get to know people and actually listening. I clock it kind of thing. Like Chima would love me for doing the clock it, but yeah, just clock it. Because I feel like if we just listen to sort of have a reply or create a bit of a superficial relationship, it's not, the essence isn't there. And connection is, I think, what makes sense when it comes to soft skills. Make that connection. Obviously, if it's organic, you don't have to force it if it's not there. But at least try to connect and understand others' ways of thinking and their cultural background, their directness, as Roxana said. Sometimes the jokes, like right here, the banter in the UK is such a big thing. Banter can throw people off so badly, and I've experienced it myself until I got it. It's not about you, it's the culture.
There's also, so with the banter, but also British comedy tends to be sarcastic, doesn't it?
Yes.
So you'll say stuff that you don't mean and you're doing it in a sarcastic way. And if you are more of a literal person and someone's being sarcastic to be funny, that's just going to be a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, both. So I am loving this conversation so far. And we are at the halfway point. So I'm going to take us to a break now. And I'm going to tease our listeners to why they should join us for part 2, because part 2, we'll be talking practical strategies. So we'll be giving listeners strategies that they can implement to help them navigate this situation. But before I bring people to the break, is there one last takeaway, one last key thing that you'd like to say in this segment, starting with Roxana?
Yeah, don't lose who you are, but that doesn't mean you can't be a more polished version of yourself.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. Wow.
Mic drop moment right there. Laura.
Wow, it's hard to follow that one.
You've got this.
But no, I suppose really listen without necessarily thinking about a reply. Just listen and clock it.
Yes, active listening. So don't listen to respond. Listen to actually listen, and listen to learn. Listen to learn, not listen to respond. There you go. Fabulous. Well, let's take that short break and join us for part 2. Search has changed, but most strategies have not. If you're still measuring success purely on rankings and clicks, you're missing where the real decisions are happening. Previsible helps brands understand and grow their visibility across AI platforms, so you're not just present, but you're actually chosen. If you want to see where your brand stands and how to build trust in AI-driven search today, simply visit previsible.io or find the link in the show notes. It's your pal Sarah here, just popping on to let you know how you can support the podcast. For the same price as a Starbucks, Costa, or your favourite local coffee shop coffee, you can give us a one-off tip or a monthly donation. All you got to do is follow the link in the show notes. And also, have you subscribed to the podcast? If not, why the heck not? If you do subscribe, you receive notifications whenever a new episode is available and ready to listen to. And while you're there, why not leave us a cheeky 5-star review or rating? Welcome back for part 2. Laura, Roxana, are you still with us?
Hello, everybody, again.
I am having such a lovely conversation with you both, and it was really great hearing your experiences of the situations we're talking about and your actual in real life experience as well, because I think we've covered why it's important and why we need to be having these conversations and why we need to bring it to the forefront. So now I want to get practical. So I'd really love to hear from you both, and this time we'll start with Laura, but I'd love to hear from you both about practical strategies that our listeners can implement to help them navigate these situations.
Yeah, so right before the break, we covered something I think quite important on practicing active listening. And I think that's something that I would like to reiterate, because I found that to be probably one of the best things that I've learned to do as a professional. I do that in my home life as well, naturally, but I think at work it does become a bit difficult, especially when you're full of ideas and you want to have your point across. And especially if you work in a creative environment, I think sometimes it can get quite difficult. And I've sort of practiced that a bit where, like, also feedback and sometimes difficult emails, let's say, or Slack messages that don't necessarily land where they should land in the first instance. I will sort of take a step back and give myself a breather before actually like proceeding with replying or responding to that said instance. And I think, I don't know if that's necessarily part of the soft skill scenario, but I found that to be so helpful, especially when you've got a bit more of a volcanic personality, let's say. And on personality, another thing that I feel like it's extremely relevant moving forward is to learn how to direct feedback, and never direct feedback at the personality of someone, but so leave them out of it. It's not about them, about their actual person. It's about the work or the instance in which you're both, or several of you, are in that moment in time in a professional environment. So feedback work, but never the person. Don't say, I didn't like what you said, or I didn't like what you did, or that idea was, no, just don't make it personal. And there's, honestly, we could be here for a very long time, but I feel like these are the ones that impacted me the most personally.
Yeah, and two things that they make sense as you're talking, but it's a reminder to do it, isn't it? And I love the idea of like taking a breather, or when you are responding to a situation, you need to be calm in yourself. And if you give yourself chance to breathe, take a step away, make yourself a matcha tea or coffee, which I know that Roxana is into right now. But giving you that time to have a little breather, have a little step away, because then you can come at it in a calm way, and also take out the person and focus on the work. I think that would help in a lot of situations, because me listeners, everyone can resonate when something is felt personal. And it's tricky in marketing. I mean, in SEO, there is data and you can back stuff up by data and like best practices and stuff. But ultimately, there is a bit of personal preference, isn't there, when you're creating something? And maybe there's personal preferences that come with your background and culture. Maybe that's the thing as well. But yeah, it's about sort of giving feedback on the work, and also what is the data saying? Everyone has their personal preference. Everyone has their favorite ways of communicating, their favorite color, their favorite way of certain things. What can you back up by the data? Roxana, what practical strategies have helped you?
I'd say, first of all, introspection, becoming more self aware of what's going on. And I think here's where mentorship programs really, really help, because it's not easy to just stop and analyze yourself in a new light because nothing has really changed for you. But once you're in a mentorship, you might have somebody who's asking you questions you never thought about, and that's going to make you think in a new way. But ultimately, if you don't have that opportunity, you can just, after a situation that maybe left you a bit sour, just stop and think what went wrong, what could you have done differently, could you have had a different reaction, could you have paused before exploding, could you, right? Could you have, when you said something and maybe you saw the expression change on the other person's face, maybe you should have paused and said, I'm sorry, is this offensive, or did I say something wrong? Or like have a bit of a conversation when you notice something's wrong, because especially if English is not your first language, things could land differently than you mean them. And it's fine to just try to rectify it, like you said before, like own it and say, look, that's not what I meant, but I'm sorry, how did it go wrong, so next time I know not to do the same thing. So self-awareness is one. Always analyze yourself and think, how can I do better? Another one would be around observation. Just look at other people, how they're handling situations, how they're reacting to things, how they're expressing themselves. And I think this is advice great if you want to become a people leader one day. Follow the people leaders you like today, but don't just follow, be obsessive. Don't follow their home. That's the limit. But
Yes.
like watch how even how they sit when they talk, because that might suggest confidence. Even how they interact with people, how do they introduce difficult decisions? Like look at all of these AI companies, they cut off people, but then when they talk about it, they talk about it in a certain way, and you can analyze that to understand how do you talk about difficult subjects, and so on. So just observation and see how other people do it, and then learn from that and see how would it work for me if I wanted to do it better as well. And also, one that I still struggle with, and I want to believe that less than before, is emotion regulation. So Laura said we're volcanic, we explode, right? Latin blood flowing through us. But it is my first reaction is to have my blood boil when I don't like something, which then clouds your judgment massively. It all becomes dark, and then whatever happens, which is not good. So yeah, take measures to understand that things happen and they're not necessarily about you specifically, just like you said, Laura, with feedback, that it happens with you there, but it doesn't define you as a person. We're complex human beings. It's not one situation or one response or one report that defines us who we are. So we need to understand that people's reactions won't be to us as persons, but it will be to one thing that we did. And then once you kind of understand that, you tie it less back to you, it becomes less important. You don't need to explode every time you get a no, or you get a I don't really like this, or anything negative, because you understand it's about that piece of work and not you as a person.
Fabulous, fabulous. And yeah, and something that popped into my brain as well is, and I know that I do this, is I think it's very quick to get your defense up. And this happens to me so many times, even if I proactively ask for feedback. So, my poor partner, Tash, when I first got into like speaking gigs, I'd be like, oh, can I can I practice in front of you? And she comes from a teaching background, right? So as I was presenting and doing my thing, she was scribbling down all these notes, red marker, and my brain was like, she's just saying how bad I am. She's just saying how bad I am. And I got into my head about it. And at the end, she was like, do you want to know my feedback? And she did it in a nice way. Like, she said all the good things about it. But then I forgot all about that and just focused on the bits where she said, I would do this, or have you tried that? And I got my defense up and I could feel it in me. And she turned around, she was like, babe, you did ask for feedback. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's always going to be moments where you catch yourself off guard, and that's okay because we're humans, but it's about like figuring that out in yourself, isn't it? And knowing how to navigate that. And now I'm much better. So if I do ask for someone's feedback, my mindset is they care about me and they want to help me be better. Do you know what I mean? It's not a personal attack. They're not saying that this is bad. They're just saying this is what we could do to improve, sort of thing. So that was what was going on in my brain. One thing that I did want to ask you both, and we are running out of time, and I need to make sure that I squeeze in the questions that we ask all of our guests. But I think, Roxana, you said about not losing yourself. So of course, we should all be looking at ways to improve ourselves and self-development and personal growth. And this might be a hard question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you make sure that you're growing and you're working on yourself, but you don't lose yourself? Roxana?
I think, first of all, you need to define your core values that whatever happens, these are things I'm never gonna change. So, for instance, for me, it's about fairness. I hate injustice. I hate when people are not treated fairly. I hate it when people they say they did the work when it was somebody else, and I'll always be the first one to point it out when it happens. I'm also the person who'll always point out the bully because I can't stand it. And I think even if that doesn't always work in the context, in a professional context, maybe sometimes I should just sit in my place and not say anything. I will do it. Damn be consequences, because this is a very strong value for me. So yeah, define the values that you will never change. But then that doesn't mean some of these values can't become more efficient, right? As I said before, if you do things a certain way and you never get any results, that's pretty much the definition of madness, to keep doing the same thing and expecting something different. So then it doesn't mean you have to give up your value, but maybe find better ways of achieving the result you want. And here's where soft skills can help with better communication and things like that. And also, don't fall in the other side where you're overcorrecting what you're doing, and you're exaggerating it to the point where it's like, that's not really me. I'm not that nice. Everybody knows me. I'm not that nice. But I'm portraying being so nice here because I think that's what you want to see. So don't overcorrect either. So I think it's a balance, pretty much. You have to keep close to things that are very important, but you have to be
Yes.
flexible, and also don't overdo it.
Yes, and I love that. So stay true to your core values and make sure that you're showing up there for yourself. But I love what you say about don't overcorrect and turn into something that you're not, because I can resonate with that so much. When I first started my first career job in SEO, I thought I had to be this rigid, really professional, like a version that is not me at all. And it was icky. I just, like, as I was trying to be this person, it was not, I wasn't authentically me. And actually, as I've learned, actually no, there is value in who I am, and people connect with me because of who I am. I'm not, that is not me. That is not who I show up as. And when you start showing up as yourself with your core values, but you're respectful of others, that's when you connect better with people. Laura, is there anything that you would add on to how you don't lose yourself?
Absolutely. So I resonate 100% with everything Roxana said. I actually was part of a very, very difficult situation at some point working abroad in person, where having stayed true to my values and standing up for myself and others, bullied parties and so on, I did end up losing a very good gig. And yeah, it can be quite draining, and it can affect your mental health quite a bit. So I would say value your mental health above everything else. I think that's how you don't lose yourself. I think that's the first thing that I would advise people to sort of look, like you said, look inward, see what are the things that tick you the wrong way, that make you feel absolutely horrid or not true to yourself, and address that ASAP. Because the sooner you do it, the better damage control you're going to be doing. And that comes with progress. So I'd say that. And the second part is find your tribe. Honestly, it might not be from your same culture sometimes. I'm very fortunate enough to have made amazing friends in this industry, starting with Roxana, who, yeah, whoop whoop. I mean, honestly, like, we've been friends forever now, but I feel like we've started, like, the way I saw her in the beginning was, oh my God, this is an amazing person, an amazing leader. And I just want to sort of like get to know how it comes so easy for someone like who's been working in this industry for ages to just stay true to that core value. And funnily enough, we do have that thing in common, which was quite nice to see. But I feel like, having found my tribe, I've got my Balkan crew like Iva Ivanovic, Milica, Bengu, a couple of girls that I tend to like communicate almost on a daily basis. It just helps me with that sort of like core strength, if you'd like, and staying true to what I believe in. And just one thing to add here, your tribe doesn't have to be living, next to you, or I don't know, even in the same country. Sometimes you might have the amazing surprise to connect with people that bring the best out of you, that live on a different time zone. So just be open. Just be open with that.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, I'm really sorry, but I am going to have to, be this moderator that I said I would be at the start and bring this conversation to a close, because I feel we could go for another hour, couldn't we? I feel like this is such an important, and we could go in lots of different avenues, but you're just going to have to come back again at some point in the future. But let me squeeze in the questions that we always ask all of our guests. So, Roxana, someone awesome to follow in the industry or not?
Not in the industry. There are so many awesome people to follow in the industry, that's for sure. So it would be unfair for me to mention one. So then I'm going to go outside of our industry, in all fairness.
Smart.
There's this woman called Tanya Riley, and she talks about technical leadership and the skills developers need beyond writing good code and, what a good developer does. So it's about communicating clearly, influencing decisions, navigating organizations. So all these soft skills you need to be professionally to have to be successful, pretty much. And I think she talks a lot about glue work. It's something I think she made up, but it's an interesting concept. I'm not going to give it away, but just search for Tanya Riley and you will see glue work as part of her talks. Open those up, listen to them. It talks about how technical teams can work together better. But what I think she does is make soft skills relevant to technical people without treating them as separate from their
Nice.
technical ability. So it just becomes part of their stack.
Fabulous. I'll make sure that we always direct people to the show notes, because we always put like resources, links, all of that lovely stuff in the show notes. So we'll make sure that we'll add that in the show notes. Laura, who are you saying?
Okay, I will recommend someone from the industry, but mainly because I do want to sort of give them a shout out, because I feel like they're one of the first people that made me aware of the whole soft skills scenario. I saw their presentation on Brighton SEO years and years ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was about accessibility, UX, a couple of things that I talk about a lot, and they tied it to soft skills a lot of the times. And yeah, so without further ado, Miracle, she is a product marketer at John Lewis.
Yes, Miracle. We were saying that Miracle is one of those people that is very well known in the industry, that she's a bit like Beyonce or Pink. If you just say Miracle, we know.
We know.
Fabulous. Okay. And I'll make sure that her links, Miracle links, are in the show notes. This is going to be a bit tricky because we've talked about so much, but I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Roxana, your quick main takeaway, your one-liner.
Oh, it's hard because we talked about so many things.
I'm gonna
Hard to
press you.
distill. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
sorry. I guess be willing to translate across cultures, but don't mistake that translation as a requirement to erase yourself.
Oh,
Wow.
nice. There's the video. There's the social media clip for promotion right there. Laura.
Well, as you said, it is quite hard to sum it up, but if you want to, like, I don't know, sum up on one liner only. Okay. So remember, people, they very, very rarely will remember what you actually tell them, like the actual words. But I feel like they never forget how you make them feel. So be wary of that. Whenever you're opening your mouth to say something or act, just think about that. And would you like to feel that way, sort of thing?
Like it.
That is
Like it.
so true.
So true. So many nuggets in this podcast. I'm so glad you both came on and had this lovely little chit chat. Last question. We can squeeze it in. I don't know why me and Tasman say, let's stick to about half an hour. Half an hour is never long enough, is it? Roxana, best career advice?
I think don't expect people to see the good work you're doing and kind of give you a promotion or whatever you might want out of it, or just a pat on the back. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to advocate the work you're doing. So don't just sit there thinking, why isn't anybody seeing how great I am? Go tell
Yes.
people.
Be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Laura?
Don't let other dictate who you are.
Nice. Yes. Don't let other people dictate who you are. That is so true. And I think we've all, as we've been lifing, you get drawn into trying to be someone because you want to impress or you think that's how you should be. So yeah, that's a really good reminder. Right. Well, my last question to you both. If people want to carry on the conversation, if people want to, chat, see what you're working on, your different posts and stuff, where are you? Starting with Laura this time.
Okay, so you can find me on my personal website. It's searchpedia.co.uk. There's a book a call button there for whatever you feel like, to be fair. And I'm quite active on LinkedIn. You can find me with my name, Laura Iancu. I'm normally the first one to come up there. And I guess I've started doing a bit more Blue Sky lately. So I'm on Blue Sky, and on YouTube, I'm normally present on a Friday at Search with Sean. I'm a co-host there. And yeah, that's it.
Fabulous. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes. And then Roxana.
Well, it's quite simple with me. I'm on LinkedIn. I kind of gave up on all the other places because who has the time? So, yeah, if you want to hear random musings, follow me on LinkedIn, and then I might pop up in your YouTube or your podcast list or things like that. So, yeah, if you just search by my name, you're going to find me.
Fabulous. Fabulous. And the only thing left for me to say as we wrap up is if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy what me and Tasman are doing, you can support us in lots of different ways. One way is make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast and be even nicer and give us a review. even nicer, a 5-star review. But, I won't pressure. That's up to you. And you can give us a one-off donation as well. Of course, there's costs involved in running a podcast, and you can support us for as little as your favourite coffee, matcha, green tea, lemonade, whatever your favourite drink is from your favourite coffee shop. So you can give us a one-off donation, and big thank you to everyone who has already done that. Right, both. Shall we say goodbye, take care of yourselves, and until next time?
Until next time.
Search has changed, but most strategies have not. If you're still measuring success purely on rankings and clicks, you're missing where the real decisions are happening. Previsible helps brands understand and grow their visibility across AI platforms, so you're not just present, but you're actually chosen. If you want to see where your brand stands and how to build trust in AI-driven search today, simply visit previsible.io or find the link in the show notes.
Hi, Tasmin here. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Be more visible, earn more, but also take care of your well-being and have work-life harmony? Well, I can help you because I'm offering you a free 30-minute consultancy call. Together we can go through where you want to be and how to get there. Simply click on the link in the show notes, fill in a form, and I'll get back to you.